Blessings and welcome forward to Reasonings right here at the Tree of Life. I'm your host, Jerome Sage Butler. I just want to give thanks to all the people who has been following us on Celia Media, on YouTube, IG, and on Facebook. And I'm liking the fact that you're subscribing to the channel and just taking in some of our positive offerings and our positive vibrations. And remember, I keep telling you, we are no expert, no pseudo master or any great teacher, because Christ is really the teacher, and we are really little helpers, right? And we are helping along the journey. I'm not a clergyman. I'm not in any special interest organization or any secret organization or any secret works organization or any government-based organization. But really what's going on is just life right here at the Tree of Life, and we're in an arts college, and so we are always surrounded by creative thoughts and creative thinking, and our reality is very spiritual, and we range from the highly religious to the deeply spiritual and, as I said, somewhat esoteric for some members, because individuality and individual thoughts for the collective. And also people are growing along their own developmental path, spiritually, emotionally, psychologically. So my first topic that I really want to get to is how to untie those spiritual knots, right? Because a lot of people have been experiencing short bursts of success in their life, short bursts of lucidity, short bursts of clarity in their lives. And I know they would like to go beyond this ebb and flow system. Now, first of all, what are these spiritual knots? Well, many ways to examine them. One of the first ways to look at them as the state of your psyche, how it is that your mental patterns engender your actual behaviors and the way of life, the way in which you live your life, right? So these spiritual knots usually are based around somewhat of your generational experiences that's coming through your family lineage, your family line, into the kind of traditions and cultures your families would have inculcated in the communities or the cultural groupings you would have been in. And those would have formed behaviors. And those behaviors would over time become a sort of way of life for everyone. And as you get older, you realize that a lot of your limitations are actually based upon those behaviors or the misinterpretation of those particular ways of life, creating personal behaviors both in your mental, physical, and psychological patterns in how you design your reality. Because most people at some point in their lives are designed by the communal grouping, first by parents, grandparents, and then by the closer, wider community, and then depending on what regimes run the society, then the greater society, or the elites, or the power structure through theocracy and theocracy, right? Whichever structure runs your current living environment. These creates a lot of knots. Because individual light shifts, individual merkaba, individual souls traversing this environment, going through past your wheel of karma and your wheels of karma, your lifetimes of experience, or maybe even your first life of experience. There are several hurdles you will have to cross, several, I would say, obstacles you have to get past. You have to scale several walls, several mountains of resistance. These are the spiritual knots. Whether they are the physical conditions you are born into, and then the psychological environment it creates around that. And then having to discover now begins to wrestle against this information and how it's trying to stratify you within a certain functionality. These blocks extend from simple choices into the most deeply concentrated choices of your life, i.e., they might determine the way in which you live your life spiritually. Because sometimes the religion and the religiosity or the religious nature of our parentage has created these binds that hold us down. And as younger generations, if we should dare to examine, though we have due respect for traditions, but if traditions should be overbearing, over-postulating, over-constraining and confining, and you cannot adjust it, and you cannot resist against it, then there is this room for combustion and conflict, these knots that tie us up. Individuals want to be free, to find collective awesomeness, but through individual expression be yet a part of all that is. These knots, they resist us moving forward. They restrain us being free, offering the love, the joy, and all that positivity we have brought to this plane with us. Yes, some of us do have a karmic debt from lifetimes accrued, but not all souls are returning souls. So for those who have accrued this karmic debt, untying those spiritual knots is of the utmost essence before you can move forward towards your full alignment, enlightenment, and enlightenment. Untying the spiritual knots begin with how you address the space you are in. When you begin to ask of yourself, is this environment truly expressive of my true nature? Are my activities within this environment truly divinely rooted in the most ontological of my nature, unto the most soulful, unto the most basic? Am I being me? Untying these spiritual knots comes through great patience, because years of inculcated socially stratifying behaviors of aggressive regimes and belief systems, they force upon us some very macabre attitudes. People might even say what people are resisting against is not necessarily decency or discipline. They're resisting against enforced decency or the perception of imposed discipline. People are truly resisting against the oppression of others upon their souls. A lot of these spiritual knots has to do with how our societies are stratified, how we are socially organized, religiously and culturally organized. For there are myriad patterns in many societies, but they all lead back, believe it or not, to those conflicting kind of behaviors that really holds us down, that really ties us to some dense states of being. So we have to undo them. Slowly unhinge ourselves, detach ourselves from these all-inclusive ideas, for these specialized versions of reality, to be conscious, to be free, be open, to know yourself, to grow, to experience yourself. Take time for your mind in quiet places, for your spirit in sacred places. Take time for your growing will in calmative and solemn places. Visit them in a book, visit them on a blog, visit them on a channel. Visit these places. Allow that freeing spirit, presence, energy, nature, frequency in the Most High God to find its way into you, to slowly reverse those blockages along your 7 shields, your 7 seals, your 7 chakras, your 7 candlesticks. Yes, not along your 7 shields. Allow those energies to unlock, to unblock. Constant, directed focus and practice. It's a training. Becoming a second nature, but allowing yourself to approach it slowly, constantly. Give yourself that break, that refresher, that renewal, that recharge. Examine these behaviors, examine these attitudes that you've drawn to yourself based upon your socialization, that are really defeating you, that are really dragging your energies down, that are really, really suppressing you, that are really, really oppressing you, that are really, really bringing your energy down to a very, 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 very low point in your spectrum. Free your mind from this intense burning. Free your soul from these intense blockages. Because indeed they do come in many forms, even including that form. You understand? Can we just turn that off? Yes. Yes, because that's one of the blockages. We just turn that off. That's called distractions. And that's a very big blockage in a lot of people's lives. These things, they become blockages. They interfere. They interject. When you least expect, they are indeed smart devices. Sometimes in an affirming nature, yes, but sometimes a really highly interruptive nature. They are indeed blockages too. You're focusing your energy on a single point and can't see the multi-spectrum of things. So sometimes we're so locked into the boxes, into the devices, we cannot even go beyond these confining states, constantly being locked in. Spiritual knots. We have to untie those spiritual knots. Return to those quiet places, those places of non-distraction. Those places where you can centralize your emotional and your mental and your spiritual frequencies and truly flow to the highest, most calmative nature, to see the trueness of your experiences, to see how it is you have become who you are, to see how you can advance towards a greater good, how you can adjust negative patterns, or you can really adjust into better behaviors, or you can truly structure a harmonious and positive life, untying those spiritual knots, unblocking generations of malpractice in the psychic behaviors. Likened to going into the Akashic records and clearing off all that bad, amalgamous negative, just through clean, clear thoughts, creating new, fresh behaviors in healthy manifestation, and tying all those spiritual knots, freeing your soul's energy, allowing the Christ into the heart chakra, into the lotus of your being, flowing through the singular nature of your logos, into the highest power, into the highest you, the most beautiful, radiant, resplendent being that is you. Become as you are. Allow it. I beckon it. I usher it in us. And I'm thanking the divine Christ, the divine source, for allowing us to share this moment. Untie your spiritual knots. Connect to your endless, unceasing source of abundance in divine Christ. Blessing unto you, unto your environment. Remember that you are an awesome blessing, an amazing gift that should be celebrated and shared. Continue to share your awesomeness. Blessings.